Welcome to today's episode, everyone. We've got a very exciting guest for you guys. Today, I have Dr. Ramon Lizardo joining us, an AI digital health visionary, leader, and an expert in emergency room diversion, which is a strategy that aims to reduce unnecessary ER visits and improve patient outcomes. Dr. Lizardo, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Hey, Trejo, thanks for the invite, honestly. Looking forward to this conversation for sure.
Absolutely. I know we did have a fun one prior to recording this podcast as well. And so maybe I think it would be best for both myself and the audience for us just to really start out with your background, kind of what's led you up to this point of, you've got three successful exits under your belt. Like where did you start, I guess is my question.
Yeah, Trejo, that's a really good question. And I think part of it was actually how this interaction even started. You caught me on a yes day. Yes days for me are days that, I do things that maybe are unconventional. You reached out to me like at 8:50 in the morning, I think it was. You said, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast or something like that?" I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but my response was what?
Yeah. Caught me on a yes day.
It's a yes day, so I'm gonna have to agree with it for sure. I just spent 30 minutes prior to this just getting to know you, and I realized, wow, man, this guy has a lot of similarities to me and my journey and how I think about life, but also the kind of risk that I took. See, I'm a kid in a man's body who basically is always trying to figure out what's new, what's next,
Yeah.
what can I do in order to better myself and align with my goals.
100%.
I'm a son also of two immigrants. Literally, they washed toilets. They were janitors, 7 minutes away from the home that I live right now. And how they helped me get ahead was this way. They enrolled me into college while I was in high school. I would go to college in the mornings at Rutgers University with my high school uniform. High school in the afternoon. By the time I finished college, I was already a sophomore, almost a junior.
Wow.
Spent 2.5 years at Rutgers. By 20, I was done with my undergrad. The very next day, I was off to medical school. Not because I felt like I was smart enough. Actually, the only application that I filled out to medical school was an extra application that a girl that I was interested in had. She let me see it, and then I totally lost contact with her. That was the one application that I filled out. Finished medical school, became a doctor by 24, didn't know left from right. But one of the things that I did know is that I never wanted to work as a service person, in the sense of I saw my parents work and make money per the hour, and if they didn't show up because my mom was sick or something was going on, they didn't make any money. I knew that I had to build a business that was long and sustainable, that would provide for my family even on days that I was off. And, I headed out that way. While in clinical training, I ended up building an app. It was called Health Pro, and I positioned it for a context over at Morgan Stanley, called it Morgan Stanley Health Pro, won some award, and that kicked off my journey into the tech space.
Oh, wow.
First company that was part of the right company at the right time, but above all, I was the hardest worker at the company. And that hasn't changed till today. That company scaled to 500 employees and exited.
Wow.
And then I just told myself, hey, I did something. I don't know what this means for me and my family, but I did something, right? 100%. Same people from there introduced me to the people at Livestream. I mean, Livestream then grew to like 250 employees, and it became Vimeo now. Yeah. And I was part of two exits, and I realized, wow, these companies, not only are they transformational, but my name is attached to them now. I've helped build things that have changed the ecosystem, right? And then after that, it was a third company, and I mean, grateful, honestly, for every one of those companies and the results of those delivery. But more importantly, was the lessons that I learned along the way. Yeah. That took me to that point. 100%. And at that point was where I was at a fork in the road. And I said, am I going to continue building companies? Yeah. Or am I going to go back and be a doctor? Or like, what do I want to do? And that's where I scribbled in the back of a greasy napkin, what if people called 911 and actually got a doctor? I'll tell you one thing. Tele911 is a company I tried to build 3 times and failed.
Really?
Oh my God. The thing is, people see this gorilla in the room right now, but if you would have talked to me in 2017, 2018, you would have seen a failure. And as a matter of fact, it's really hard to fail, especially after having 3 exits, right? Because you're at the top and you're seeing, wow, I've been able to do this. And then you're like, wait a second. No, now I have 3 failures. You're trying to figure out who you are by then, right? And the thing is, in this industry, you're as good as your last deal. So if you failed your last but won 4, you failed your last. That's what you're known for,
Yeah.
right? And it was pretty hard. Now, COVID hit and the industry changed. And calling 911 and actually getting a doctor was innovative, but not only that, accepted and accelerated.
Yeah.
And here we are now, the nation's leading virtual ER company. We actually run the nation's largest ER and
Oh,
the
wow.
nation's leading virtual ER company. What does that mean? If you call 911 in California, Texas, Florida, Maryland, and cities like Baltimore, Sacramento, Dallas, Fort Worth, ambulance still shows up in about 7 or 8 minutes. But in less than 40 seconds after that encounter, you get a board certified emergency room.
Oh, wow.
That is life changing. My first year, Tyson, the goal was to get 300 patients. Within the first few months, we started doing them by the thousand. That first year, we covered 4 million lives.
Oh my gosh.
And I realized not only do we have a company, but we have something that's going to change the space. So yeah, if you see the story that I just shared, is a lot of those instances like this one, the
Yeah.
yesterday, right, where it's like, hey, I've had 3 failures, but what if I do this again?
Right.
COVID happened, right? Like it's about saying yes to those opportunities because those
100%.
opportunities are the ones that are going to change the face of the industry that you're working in.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing your background. And that's interesting. I didn't know that, the company that you have right now, Tele 911, it had failed initially, like the first couple of times, really, even after having multiple successful exits. When you say that the company had failed like 2 times previously before you guys have been able to scale like you are now, what did that failure look like? Like, were you guys looking to raise capital from VCs, or was it just a product market fit? I guess what was the part that failed?
Tyson, let me tell you, that was probably the hardest part because, see, we didn't have a company. All we had was a deck and an idea, right? And I'll tell you, man, I got laughed out of rooms at Google, Facebook,
Oh,
Amazon,
wow.
Salesforce. Like, yes,
Laughed at.
nobody wanted to invest. Nobody thought this was real. The only person that actually said, hey, I think you got something there, Frederick Arnard,
Hmm.
his dad owns LVM, Tiffany, and all those stores.
Oh, wow.
His dad put him in charge of Taguware to be CEO. Young kid, sharp kid. And he said, what if people like press the watch and actually get a doctor? He said, I
Yeah.
love your idea, but all I had was a deck. I didn't have a company.
Oh,
So everyone was basically no, 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 no. And the truth is, like, if you would have gone back 7 years ago
uh-huh.
and you would have said virtual medicine was a thing, it wasn't,
Right.
right? People are like, no, you need to go to the doctor. They need to check your blood pressure. It wasn't reality. But going back and remembering how I felt at those moments, it's critical, right? Because listen,
100%.
right now we're the leading company in this space. We have a 2-year backlog,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Every private equity company wants a piece of this, and I'm grateful for that,
Hmm.
right? Our margins are over 90% in some instances. Like
Oh,
we
nice.
have an amazing company, right? But here's a big but.
Uh-huh.
Fuel those beginning stages is so critical, right? Getting laughed at, getting said, hey, you don't know what you're doing, getting
Right.
said, hey, go back to medicine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because no one was seeing 3 exits. People were
Yeah.
seeing failure after failure after failure. And the thing is, I hold those conversations dear because they're the fuel that
Yeah.
till this day continue to make me fight,
100%.
right? To be the leader that we need to be and to continue to be the leader that we.
Yeah, that is super interesting. And what I wanted to ask you as well is, with a background in medicine, I know that you have went to school as well for business. Did you do those both at the same time before you started a business, or did you go back to school for business after you already scaled the company?
No, I went to the school of hard knocks, man, for business, and then went and got an MBA. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I had to do that, and I feel there's a lot that I had to learn on my own.
Mm.
You can, and I tell people this all the time: go out and look at the curriculum for any business school.
Uh-huh.
Look at their books and buy them, and get yourself your own MBA.
Mm.
Right? The skills that you're going to have to teach yourself in school or out of school, they're the same
The
skills,
same.
right? A lot of people go to business school as for the network.
Right.
That's the reality, right? I actually just forced myself,
Mhm.
okay, like I'm building a company. I don't know what a product team is. What does an engineering team do? What is
Right.
account management? Wait, I didn't know. I had to teach myself all that,
Oh,
right?
wow.
In books and asking people because I had a business to build.
Right.
right? Like, and the good thing for me is I saw it as a way out the cycle of working and making money per the hour. So I just forced myself to make sure that I learned those skills and applied them rather quickly, because to me it was an exit, right? It was a way out to, oh, I got to see X amount of patients in order to make X amount of money and in order to be able to sustain my family.
Right, 100%. And did you really take on like because you scaled your company to 500 employees and you talk about it, I know that it wasn't easy. I have a lot of questions around that as well. But as far as like the marketing and the sales and you guys being able to bring that revenue in to hire that amount of employees, were you in charge and leading really the business development side of things or more along like the product, would you say?
At startups, you got to do everything. You
Right.
got to, yeah. It's funny. I'll never forget this.
Uh,
That first company, we had some people manage multiple emails,
oh, well.
and it was like they would literally email themselves, where it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm gonna loop in account management," right?
Right.
And the management was themselves, but it made
Yeah.
it look professional, especially
Sure.
with these clients, right? This is just what we had to do at the moment in order to make sure that one, we look professional, two, that these
Yeah.
clients that were closing six-figure contracts were trusted us,
Yeah.
and then three, we wanted to make sure that until we scaled, we wore all those hats,
Uh,
right?
yeah.
Because then we knew all the pieces that were making the story, and we knew, hey, this is what we need to do in order to take it to the next stage.
Yeah, very. No, that is very awesome as well. And I know that, with your most recent company, there were two, there was a time period where you struggled, but with the first two that you scaled, especially, the first one with 500 employees, what was maybe like the riskiest position that you were in, or what was the time maybe where you maybe felt a little bit pessimistic, like I don't really know if this is going to work. I haven't done this before, or was it kind of just like straight through to success?
Dude, no, no, no. None of that was a success. It was
Wow.
a collaborative effort of everyone coming in and telling me, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
Right? I don't see it as me. I see it, hey, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
Right? Everyone owned everything across the way. But super, super important, and I still have this quality and I never want to
Uh,
let go. I know there's a lot that I don't know, right? And every room that I walk into, hey, I want to make sure that everyone knows there's something that's a gap. I don't know what it is, but there's always something that's a gap. And then I always have the mindset of, hey, I want to learn. What is it that you think that I need to know, right?
mhm.
And I want you to teach me, right? And I do
1,000%.
that every single time. And I do that on board calls, and I
Mhm.
do that as CEO. I do it everywhere. And I did it back then at those companies, and I'm
Yeah.
doing it now. And that mindset has allowed me to always, one, be receptive to feedback. Two, people are more than willing to teach,
Yeah.
right? People are like, hey, let me tell you my perspective all the time. And I'm like, well, this is a great opportunity for me to learn.
1,000%. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And one thing that really stuck out to me when we connected and, I talked to your chief of staff is like, you seem like somebody who's really mastered the skill of being able to set up different teams and systems and processes in your business. So that way you aren't the one managing everything. Obviously, in the beginning, it's really important that you take on that responsibility before you scale.
Yeah.
But what advice would you share to somebody that I know you look a lot into the people that you are working with and companies that you're investing in as well. Is that the same for team members that you bring on? Like, are you investing more in the person themselves or necessarily like the skills that they have?
Yeah, and listen, after this podcast, I want you to go back to my chief of staff and ask him this. So I have a few rules here at Tele 911
Uh,
and super critical. If you are an executive at my company, you are responsible not only of your job duties, but
mm.
to learn the names of every kid of the person that you manage.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so every one of my executives, I know their kids' names.
Mhm.
Why? Because they're sacrificing that time for me. And if I don't know their kid's name, then I don't care about them or their kids, right? Super critical on that. But that same methodology we apply to everyone. You hold people accountable, but you
Yeah.
care about them deeply. People see that, people feel that, people really understand that, hey, that changes everything. This
Yeah.
is a boss, but he knows me, right? My chief of staff, the one that scheduled this call from
Uh,
you, one of the things that I love the most about him, and maybe he should be on, like, listen, I met him 6 years at a conference, connected with him, young kid, and I said, listen, one day you're gonna work for me, right? This kid was awesome. Went through a tough time. He gave me a call, and I said, hey, let me just hear you out. He started here as an intern,
oh,
right?
wow.
Young kid, right? who became a consultant, who became full-time, and now this kid is, we call him a kid, but he sits on he preps for every board call. He sits on every health plan executive meeting. He's getting the opportunity of his life. His parents still pick strawberries. His parents are farm workers who pick strawberries in California. And one of the things that I said was, hey, listen, like that's your parents' story. What is going to be your story? And over the last 2 years, one, helping him understand finances, how money works, how money moves. And earlier this year, he said, hey, I want to live in another country. I'm like, great. You now are at a place that you can do that. But the whole process of taking a talent, trusting them with, hey, I'm trusting him with my life pretty much, right? And my career, but building him up to the point where now he's making decisions as a boss, right? That's cool. Right? And I tell them the day you start your company, I got to figure out how to invest in it. Right? Like
100%.
he's that kind of guy. And because of that, I'm just grateful to know him and just to see him grow.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love how you take more of a people approach and you strike me as somebody that really values, family and being able to kind of create that balance. I know a lot of your posts on LinkedIn are around like stories and examples of the principles that you're sharing, and like the stories that you tell. You're very effective at storytelling, and I think that that's a really good skill that anybody who's looking to build a personal brand, whether they're a leader, CEO, a founder, a co-founder, can really acquire. What is really like your why, I guess? What are you looking to accomplish, going forward? Obviously, you've had success up to this point, but what does maybe like the next couple of years look like for you? What would that success look like, I guess?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. So let's dive deeper into that. Success should change every quarter and every year because you're maturing as a person, right? Success at 20 was, hey, I got to make sure that I become a doctor. Success at 24 was like, I got to make sure I build a company, right?
Yeah.
Success last year was different than this year, right? Here's what success looks like for me now, Tyson. So above all, I've done most of what I wanted to this point. Like I can genuinely say that.
Yeah.
I became a doctor, I built companies, I started a family, I live in my dream home. I am good. Now what I want to do is buy back time and invest in people to leave a legacy. Let me give you a few examples. So my wife gifted me a Mercedes-Benz last year for Father's Day. When I went to the dealer to take it in for service, guy took my keys, went out, came back in and said, hey, is your odometer working? And I said, yeah, it's working, I guess. He's like, did you drive your car? And I'm like, you know what? I didn't. I flew like 250,000 miles, but I didn't drive it much, right? And waiting for an oil change, what I realized was, wow, I'm not enjoying even the things that I really want.
Right.
Right? Like that's an issue, right? So time back for me to enjoy the things, it's super critical. My lifelong dream has been to go to France, right? I've been all over Europe. I've been all over the world. I've never been to France. I have to stop my life now. I have to go to France because if I don't do it now, I might never do it, right? My kids and my spouse are my priority, right? Lucas and Valentina, like most of my posts are about them because to me, I'm living a love story for them that if they ever Google something about me, they're going to be like, man, my dad loved me, right? That's what I'm doing right now. To me, success means getting back my time and spending it with my kids. Now, the third component of that is, hey, I want to invest in people. Over the last few years, I've been to quite a few funerals, young people too. Executives are getting heart attacks. People are dying. That's what you realize. And once you hit 40, what you're realizing too is you're going to your parents or your family's funeral, but you're going to your friends as well. Super clear that the people that attend your funeral attendance is going to depend on the weather that day. If it rains, no one's going to go, right? Unless you're someone that invested in people. Unless you're someone that you left an indelible imprint that they're just like, I don't care if it's a snowstorm. And what I want is when I finish my life, that I'm surrounded by those where these people weren't just on my payroll or weren't on my payroll, but these people are basically leaving a legacy because of the seed that I planted in them, which is why I spent a portion of my time investing in other people, the same way people invested in me. And that's my thank you letter to the world. And I'm grateful that I'm able to do that at 40 and not at 65.
100%. I love that. I think you put it beautifully as well. And for maybe another leader like a CEO or an executive that maybe they don't have multiple successful companies and exits really under their belt, but they want to buy back their time as well.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know. I've heard people talk about life in seasons, like, hey, this is a season to buckle down and to do what you need to do in order to be successful. And then this is a season to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, kind of like the example that you shared as well. For me personally, I feel like I'm in the season where I need a proof of concept and I need to really put in as much work as I possibly can to build the skills and the mindset and buy down that ignorance tax, like I had mentioned earlier.
Love that, man. Honestly, where did you hear that? I need you to coin that. That is awesome.
It's not me. It's I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Ramosi, but he always talks about like buying down the ignorance tax by getting in front of mentors or people such as yourself that can share insights like you're doing on this podcast that help either confirm certain things that I was already thinking or show me a new way to get to the goals that I have.
Listen. I have not heard of Alex. I would love to meet him, but
Absolutely.
that phrase is awesome. Buy
Buying
down the
down
ignorance
the
tax. That's
ignorance
powerful.
tax. But yeah, so that's really my question for you is, do you like look at your life in specific seasons or somebody for me, I know a lot of young founders that are just in the grind right now that should they take a step back and maybe like smell the flowers really, or do you think that they should double down in what's already working and just, do whatever it takes and really that more of a hardcore mindset, I guess.
Yeah. So listen, some people have been smelling the flowers for too long, and
Mm,
that's like 99% of the US, right? Where they think, hey, I deserve this. I
yeah.
should be able to get this.
Title.
But then at the other extreme, some people are so intense that they're missing points, right?
Hmm.
And that's not good either. I'm in CEO meetings all the time, and I'm hearing some of these CEOs
Wow.
rave about how they're going to be cutting headcount because of AI and smiling about it because their margins are going to be higher.
Wow.
And I'm like, wait, there's a human way to do that.
Yeah.
Where, like, what about these people losing their job? Like, what are you going to do to make sure? Right. So
Right.
you want to make sure that you have that human element. And then in life, when it comes to seasons, make sure that you go through every season, but you don't spend too much time in every season,
Yeah.
right? Kind of thing, which is, because you have to, you kind
Yeah.
of have to. I have to learn how to go through summer. I haven't gone through a summer. I've gone through some springs where it's like, oh, but summer, like stopping and enjoying, no,
Wow.
right? And then winters, I've seen them, and I've seen quite a few of them, and they've been so good now that I look back because they've molded me into a different person. But they
Yeah.
were tough. Some of those winters were brutal, right? And but I'm grateful for them now that I'm able to.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's inspiring for me to see as well, just like your journey and everything that you've talked about in this podcast. I come from humble beginnings as well. My parents weren't immigrants, but I had a fairly, I guess, rough upbringing. My family didn't have any money. So I love the fact that, you live 7 minutes away from where your parents used to work. And it kind of really drives that hunger in you. And you wake up every day like you're hungry instead of sleeping in maybe like you're already satisfied even with the success that you've had up to this point. Would you say that that's what gives you your edge? And because I know it's a battle, like even though you've had success in the past and you probably also had success like even this year as well, but like going forward there's still going to be more struggles, there's still going to be more hardships. What do you use really for your edge? Are you somebody that being pessimistic or being optimistic is really important to you? Or are you more of just like, hey, this needs to get done, I'm going to get it done? More of like that personality type.
Yeah, I create lists all the time,
Mhm.
and this is what we're going to tackle. This is by when we're going to tackle it, and this is the result. Now there are going to be variations in that list, but I have these expectations for me. Going back to you, man, because I
Yeah.
love how you phrase that. How you're like, hey, my parents didn't have much money, but
Yeah.
you basically did the best that you could. Actually, my question to you on that end, do you see that as a blessing? And then at what point did you start seeing that as a blessing? Because I'm pretty sure that when your parents couldn't buy the groceries, you didn't see that as a blessing at that moment. Well, what point did you start seeing that as a, oh wow, this is good?
Yeah. My father passed away back in 2021 and he was 44 years old. I
Oh
was
wow.
21 years old. I was still in college and I was working hard, but I was kind of just doing what I can, not really pushing myself and leveling up and doing what I can and going through that uncomfortable growth stage and kind of self-inflicting like being more uncomfortable. And so when he passed away, what I realized is I got this huge sense of urgency. I just realized how short life really is. My
Yeah.
grandfather passed away when he was 55, my dad when he was 44. And so, I was 21 at the time. I'm 25 now. And I'm just thinking, like, man, tomorrow isn't promised. Like, I don't want to keep holding this off. And what I notice is everybody around me, what they've told me is, like, usually when people go through an extreme amount of pain or extreme amount of trauma, maybe when they're younger or through a certain period of their life, it really sparks a certain sense of urgency into
Right.
them, and it kind of wakes them up. And so for me, I felt like that didn't happen to me, it happened for me. It helped me be so much more intentional. It helped me do a lot of personal development work on my mindset, on like the skill sets, and just being more intentional with how I spent my time, how I was, giving value to other people and loving my family and all of the relationships that were in my life. And so I think that if it didn't happen, I would, there's a good chance that I might just be going through the motions. And really, there's no problem with that. But I'm glad that it really woke me up and it sparked me to be a self starter and to start my company and, have the confidence to reach out to people such as yourself. And all of this good energy that I've been getting has really helped me. You sharing your story, you talking about your rough upbringing, and now you're living in your dream home. You have your dream family. You've been able to have success up to this point. It's awesome to see that even though you started from humble beginnings, you were able to get to this point of success. And
Yeah.
so it really is it's confirmation for me that, like, if I take people such as yourself, your advice, that it could be the same scenario as well.
It'll be a different story, but it could be the same scenario for sure. You own your destiny, sure. But you know what, though? I don't want to talk about that, though. I
Yeah.
think what I want to talk about is, hey, what happens when we're in the pit,
Right.
where everything's going wrong, right? Like, how do you react to that, Tyson? Like, have you ever been in a situation like over the last 24 months where you felt like everything was falling apart,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So the main point that sticks out to me is back in March when I left my W-2 job to go full time into my business.
Yeah.
Wasn't really, I talked to you before this, but the company had restructured and the growth wasn't necessarily there. And so I felt like if not now, then when? And what I realized is, it was a lot of stress and a lot of work and late nights, and it still is up to this point, everything that I have been working through. But the way that I deal with the stress is I realize that there is no perfect path. I feel like my problems are my path to level up. When I'm looking at, like, how can I get to that outcome that I want? How can I have a successful business? How can I have a successful relationship with my family?
Yeah.
How can I reach all of my goals? I feel like each new problem that comes into me and in my environment, that is the path. Like, that is the thing that I need to solve for in order for me to level up. And, quote that I always love is, your level of success will never exceed your level of stress management and personal development. Like, you're asking for all the success in a larger company, but that you're also asking for more risk, more
Yeah.
stress that's going to come in bigger problems. And so to find whatever way you got to find to do that for you. Some people have routines. For me, it's a strong morning routine, and kind of detaching from outcomes and results and focusing more on the process. And for other people, they can just power through. But I think if you can find something that works for you during that time of stress, it's not a matter of if it's going to come up, it's just when. And you really
Yeah.
have got to be able to harness it the best way that you possibly can. I'm not perfect, so I don't want to give off that impression, but I think it's always something that I'm striving to. It's really become my purpose, is being able to follow my path.
Hey, one of the things that I realized, particularly in the last like 36 months,
What's
that's
that?
so critical. You know how I mentioned how I invest in my employees, and to me, I mean, I really treat them like family. Now I hold everyone
Absolutely.
accountable, but I treat them like family. One of the things that I realized has accelerated success over the last 24 to 36 months is genuine care for others,
Mm,
right? The business grows. The
yeah.
business will mature because not just your work, but
Mhm.
everyone else's work around you. But when you come across genuinely caring for other people, it really does change people's perspective of you and their willingness to help. And right now we're in an interesting situation as a country,
Uh-huh.
right? Where to be indifferent seems to be the MO,
Mm,
right? And that, I mean, that's a very dangerous path
you're right.
because apathy and and just lack of awareness
Mm,
is just hurtful.
right.
Tyson,
Uh,
people ask me, listen, maybe I wasn't the best doctor. I'll tell you that. Maybe I did well on my board.
sure.
But one of the things that made me really, really good was that I treated every patient as my family,
Mm,
right? even at the cost of more hours, whatever I needed to do, I treated every patient as my family. And that mindset has translated so much to the business, and I think it's a testament to growth. And that same mindset is so critical right now, right? So one of the things that all CEOs right now are talking about, especially in the healthcare space, is cuts to Medicaid because of this bill that's passing today through the Senate. Maybe it's passing right now. It passed the Senate last night. It's planning to pass through the House today.
Oh, wow.
Like the truth is this: most CEOs are going to benefit out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Like I should be rooting for this, right? But but what we're seeing is a lot of people in leadership are saying, "Wait, no, that's going to hurt a lot of people."
Why is
That's
that?
why is that? Well, Medicaid is how a lot of people who are destitute, people who can't afford access to care, right, receive health care. It's a government program. As a matter of fact, you're from Arizona. Right? There's a lot of people from Arizona who are on Medicaid. Based on their family size, they make less than $50,000 a year, and the government gives them an access to an insurance. Right? That takes away access to food, access to healthcare, sometimes even access to transportation if there's a bus flight there, right? So in the minds of leaders who are emotionally intact and sensitive to this, what we're thinking is, wow, I need to make sure that I figure out a pathway to protect my employees. Tell 911 over 6,500 people are either medics or were employees or whatever it is, right?
Wow.
And I would be disingenuous to believe that most or some of those people are on Medicaid, right? Like it would be disingenuous for me to act that way. So I know people are going to be hurt. I know that, and this is what's top of mind right now for all of us right now,
Gotcha.
at least this week. Super critical. And what we're doing strategically, coming up with ways of, hey, how do we best support not just our employees, but also our patients because of all these changes that are.
Yeah. I love that you're taking more of a human-centric approach, and that's helped you in your medical experience and starting your business. And as you mentioned, that's how a lot of CEOs can help make it through good times, but hard times as well, as by just being selfless and focusing on the others that you're impacting. I think that that's huge. Would you say that that's one of the biggest recommendations that you would maybe give, a business leader who's really just starting out?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I only invest in people who have that skill set. So I belong to Silicon Valley.
Uh-huh.
I am surrounded by jerks who are incredibly smart and unhuman, right? That is the reality.
Yeah.
Now, I also know
Mm.
that there's an opportunity to apply these human concepts to every situation. And when I see people like that, man,
Mm.
people who are like, hey, actually, no, my dad died. This is
Yeah.
what's happening. I grew up, right? I'm like, wait, I gravitate towards those people because I know those people, one, are going to be leaders in the future. But
100%.
two, if we nurture that side, they're going to be human leaders, which is what I think society needs a lot.
Yeah. No, I love that. I talk to so many people, even that we've had on the podcast, that you can tell when people are really trying to make a positive impact and they're really trying to help. And then whenever, people just make it all about the money. And I think, maybe us as people are inherently selfish when it's just starting out and when you're younger and maybe you're immature and you think you start because it was all about the money. And then you start to realize like, I can't keep going this way. And you start to build relationships with people in the industry and with your clients. And then you realize like, no, man, it's all about making these people happy and honoring my word. So that way I can drive results to everybody I promised,
Yeah,
success to.
absolutely, absolutely. And also holding up your commitments too. If you're saying that, like prove it, show it, deliver, right?
100%.
And the best way is when other people who you've done this for
Mm.
are actually showing up and growing, right? Like I love my team at Tell 911, but I don't want my team to be here forever.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
turnover because I want these people to go out and build companies and for me to
I
invest in them.
love that.
Tele 911 is a school, and it's a hard school. My God, this is a hard school. This is a really hard school. What's cool is seeing these people leave and now do their own thing, and that's what's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing. Now we invest, we see them grow, we apply the same skill set, right? And then you are taking a step back, but you're just cheering on this crowd that's going to be a legacy that down the line they're going to do the same, right? And then those people are going to do the same, and that's how you change the world.
Yeah, I love that. I've never heard somebody embracing churn, with their employees and their business, but for the right reasons. So that way they can grow and they can go. And I know you're not just talking, like you've actually proved this. And anybody that's connected with you on LinkedIn, they can see the companies that you're a board member for. What really was funny to me, before we started our podcast is, you've invested in companies where maybe you don't understand the business model to 100% capacity, but you believe so much in the people that
Oh, absolutely.
that you're in good hands, and the companies are growing, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely, because you invest in people. Yeah, it's funny. I won't name the company, but there is a company that I still don't understand what they do, but they're growing. But the
Yeah.
CEO is amazing.
Wow.
He's just such and like if you sit down with him and have a drink, you're just like, wow, this person is like I think our first call, his kids interrupted twice. I saw how he interacted with his kids, and I'm like,
Wow.
wow, that's a father I want to emulate. Why? Right? The way he managed his engineering team, the way he treated, I was like, wow, this guy is awesome.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I was like, what does this company do? Sheesh, okay. So I had a second meeting, didn't understand it. And I'm like, well, that's an issue, right? And the third meeting, I was like, dude, I just got to invest. Like, I don't know, but we just got to invest in this company. Just because he's one of these leaders and sure enough, you're seeing it by his trajectory. Like all these health plans are joining because of who he is.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely. It's awesome, especially with the example with your chief of staff as well. He started off as an intern and now he's able to manage all these awesome things. I hope he's watching, this podcast so he can see your perspective on all of the work that he is doing. And he sounds like he's really just hit the ground running since he started. So your track record with who you've invested in and who you decided to partner with is clearly rooted in good faith, but the results are there as well.
Yeah, it's funny. There's certain roles, and it could be, not the lowest role, but we can say it just be a simple marketing associate to a CEO here. I randomly jump into these interviews. And usually what I do is I say, hey, so before you quit your job and take a job here, know that in 6 months you're either getting fired or promoted. And then I leave. I'll come back and be like, no, like this is a hard school.
Yeah.
Like you have 6 months to prove that you are the person that you need to be, right?
100%.
And sure enough, like most people make it.
Yeah.
What's funny? Most people make it. The people that don't make it, what's sad is this was the best school
Yeah.
that they've gone through, right? Because I care about them,
Yeah.
right? But a lot of it is, again, a lot of it's lack of curiosity or lack of work ethic. Like, listen, Tyson, you're a Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
And among CEOs, we're just like, no, we can't hire these Gen Zs. Mind you, they're graduating college. Like why can't we hire? And then someone like you shows up, right? And who's like burning the midnight oil. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it, right? Kind of thing. And they deliver. And those are the Gen Zs that I'm like, show up every
Yeah.
time. I need you here.
100%.
Right? You're young, you're fresh, you're curious, you're willing to work hard. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like people like that. There's actually at Tell 911, there's a vice president of patient experience. Single mom. I mean, her kids are awesome. My God,
Oh, wow.
you could tell she's raising the right kids. She started here
Really?
as
Wow.
a contractor, and she worked her way up to manager, to director, now VP. Young, I mean, but let me tell you, the amount of times I've gotten a message from that. I mean, like at 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, hey, the deliverable is in. I just wanted to make sure that you got it on time. At 3 in the
Wow.
morning, right? While I was sleeping, she was working with 2 kids, which I've seen on video,
Wow.
right? Calling me from like people like that, they're just set apart. They're literally just they're just set apart, honestly. She manages another person on her team, and her name is Addie. And Addie has I think she has a 1-year-old, named Sophia. But what's interesting is Addie shows up to work. Like I think her daughter was like 3 weeks old when she was showing up
Oh,
with
wow.
the baby. Like these are people who are sacrificing so much of their lives
Yeah.
for the company. Honor them. Treat them with respect. Move them up. Right? That's how we function here at Tell 911. And that's the culture, right,
Yeah.
that we have. Now we hold each other accountable, right? And what tends to happen if someone walks in
Uh-huh.
and sees that culture, they're either going to align or they're going to leave, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, man, these people are crazy. This is like a cult,
Yeah.
right? And no, like the right people then go out and build things, and we invest and we continue to
Yeah.
elevate them. That's how things should be.
Wow. I really appreciate you sharing that insight. I think that that's key for any just, leaders within organizations who listen to this podcast is I feel like why you've been able to move so fast. And from what I've seen in the corporate experience, they'll keep bad people who don't have a work ethic and maybe they're entitled and they expect promotions. And they'll keep those people for years on end without any way to uncover that. Whereas you give people more than enough time, which is 6 months to come and improve themselves. And from my experience, any type of new job that I've had or new business that I've started in the first month, you're going to give it your all, even when you're working with and you'll keep doing that, as time goes on and you take on different tasks. But that first 4 months, like you're leaving nothing behind. And so if they
Yeah.
can't prove themselves during that time period, then really when are they?
Tyson, there's this one guy
Uh-huh.
that just hired that really surprised me.
Uh-huh.
Really? So, we had a vacancy here for a head of billing and credentialing. He was literally the first person who applied, and I wasn't even part of the interview process, but I was like, you know what, let me just take his resume. And I gave him a call. And this guy, he's from Turkey, has a strong accent, and I was trying to make out what he was saying. And he was very soft spoken. And we belong to a world where it's like, hey, you need your voice to be heard. You need to, like, right? Very soft spoken, right? So I interviewed him, and then I said, hey, I think I need to talk to you again, right? And I did. And then I told the CFO, I was like, I think you need to interview this guy, right? And everybody loved him, right? We had like thousands of applicants. Everybody loved him. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to call this guy and make him an offer. And I'm gonna give him a piece of the company, and I'm gonna make him a six-figure offer. Now it's a role that you don't even need a degree for,
Oh, wow.
right? And the guy was like, "Yeah, I'll start in 2 weeks." In those 2 weeks before he started, he sent me a report. First of all, we gave him access to all the tools. He told me all that we were doing wrong. In his soft-spoken voice, he's like, "This is what you're doing wrong, and this is what you did, and this is." I was like, "Dude, you're killing me with kindness here." And then the next team, and then he met with everyone on the team. And the other day he sent an email, and it included a board member, and the board was like, "I don't understand why you can't get this right, right?" And I was like, "Wow, this guy is exposing all our faults, right?" Like, this guy is awesome. This soft-spoken guy from Turkey who you really got to lean into here knows his stuff. He's working clearly because he also sends me a report how he like slashed a lot of our numbers that were backlogged, right? But he's not afraid to call me and say, "Hey, this is what you did wrong," right? That is worth six figures in a piece of the company.
Wow.
Because this guy, if before he started, he's willing to stand up and say, "Hey, this is what," right? Anyone else would have been like, "I don't know how to tell him this. I don't know." He's like, "Let me tell you what I think." Yeah. Now I feel like he's the loudest voice in the room, but he's also super soft spoken. But when he speaks, everyone's like, "Okay, what did Chuck say?"
I love that. Yeah, I always hear from different founders and CEOs that come onto our podcast how hard it is to find that 18 talent. So whatever you're doing to attract it, man, just keep it up. Like it sounds like you're definitely able to bring in the 18.
Well, you know what's funny? He was one of the only talents in the last 2 years that didn't come in through a referral.
Huh.
Everyone in the company comes in through a referral because you did the hard work for me,
Sure.
right? You found a friend that you are putting your name under, that
Yeah.
you're saying, "Hey, yeah, you did the hard work for me." That to me is golden.
100%.
Referrals at least get an interview every single time.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it should be,
Yeah.
right? We do use outsourced recruiting, but these are like trusted recruiters. Yeah, but a lot of our business comes through referrals. People who know somebody who they're like, "Hey, I'm going to vouch for them," and also they're able to say, "Actually, this is a really tough school. Do you really want to work here?" Just so you know, right? You're going to get fired or promoted in 6 months. Like, you might lose your job in 6 months.
Yeah. It's either double down or run while you can.
Yeah, that's how you got to do it.
But I love that. And like you said, even though he wasn't a referral, he was able to prove himself within the first 2 weeks already. And so you could see it right away.
He's such a great culture fit. It's as if he was always here.
Oh, wow.
But he's like, that's Chuck is someone that in 2 years or three, he's going to start his own company. And my God, I want to invest in it. And
I love it.
I don't care if it's an ice cream shop. That guy is going to be successful.
Whatever he does. I love that. And if there is anybody that's watching this podcast and maybe they feel like they're in alignment with everything that you've been speaking about and you really your outlook on business, or maybe they even want advice, outside of, Tele 911's website, would LinkedIn be the best people really for them to go
Yeah.
and connect with you?
Yeah. LinkedIn is the best way to connect with us. Also, LinkedIn is the best way to connect with our team members.
Nice.
From ops to just around the world, across the board. I encourage people build relationships with my team members too, not just me, right? Everyone here is a representation of the company. Everyone here has access to me too.
Yeah.
So if you reach out to someone else and they're like, hey, this is an action. It's funny because most of our medical team is a referral through someone else who they said, hey, they came to me. Should you want? I was like, yeah, absolutely. We want to talk to people. You gotta talk to a lot of people to meet these diamonds in the rough, right? But
Right.
if you're not talking to people, you're never gonna meet them. So like, you gotta make sure you get that done.
100%. Now, I appreciate that. And I'll be sure to include your LinkedIn in the description of this video as well. And, before we wrap up here, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience of software and technology founders and CEOs that are in the trenches? They're doing the work. Maybe they've had a few successful exits. Maybe they haven't. What would be the one thing that you would leave the audience, really for leaders, to help them really get to that next level?
Yeah, so excellent question. So I think the number one thing is people need to figure out who they are. Like really, what are their values, and understand based on their values outside of their product, that's who they're gonna attract. Those are the kind of
Wow.
customers you're gonna attract. That's the kind of company you're gonna build. That's the kind of revenue you're gonna have.
Wow.
Right? Literally, that's the kind of revenue you're gonna have. Figure out your values, and that's what's gonna be. Literally, I can have a conversation with someone about their values, and I can tell them what kind of company they're building.
Wow.
And some things should not change. Like for me, voting rights, gay rights, human rights are critical. That's never gonna change.
Absolutely.
These are values. Values. I don't care if it's Pride Month or not, right? MLK Day or not. It doesn't matter. Values.
Yeah.
My customers know this. My employees know this. Our revenue matches a company that values that,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
And I tell people that all the time in leadership. If you don't get that right, dude, you don't know who you are. You don't
Right.
know what you're building, and neither do people.
100%.
People don't know if and that's happening a lot right now with brands, right?
Right.
It's like, what side of the aisle are you in? You should have figured that out 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Not now, because it's this month. Like,
Yeah.
you need to figure that out. There's a company that does this very well. Actually, REI, a lot of people who are outdoorsy use it, and you know where they stand every single time, right? And because of that, they don't use the customer. Subaru, extremely well.
Yeah.
Right? You know where Subaru stands every single time.
Yeah.
And then there are other companies that are super volatile. Target. I have no idea where Target is today. Like, you just don't know. Again, leaders, pick your values.
Wow.
Shout them out. Live them. Like tell people, live them. And I guarantee you, your products are gonna match that. Right? Your customers are going to match that. But above all, your revenue is going to, of course, is going to match that. Because people want to spend money on brands that they share values with.
Yep.
And to me, that's the conversation everyone needs to have.
That's huge. Yeah. And I hope that didn't go over your guys' head. You might have to rewind that a couple of times really to let that sink in. But, I'm definitely going to take that into consideration as well as I look to build out my brand kind of from just starting off, into the future. Ramon, thank you so much for your time and for your insights today. I mean, this has been an amazing podcast, definitely the longest one that I've done actually up to this point. But there's so many gems and golden nuggets in here that I'm going to post the whole thing. So
awesome, man. Honestly, Tyson, you've made a friend today. I'm hoping that we can stay in touch, and I'm hoping that we can see you grow too.
absolutely. I really appreciate it. But, there you have it, guys. Feel free to reach out to Ramon or myself. Drop any questions in the comments, and we will catch you guys in the next video.